afternoon, and welcome to Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. I'm your host, Michelle Dawes-Bird, and as always, I'm super excited. Don't you start, Juan. Don't you start. I love my guests. As always, I'm always super excited to be here. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood here in Atlanta. It is election season. A lot of people have already started to go out and early vote, so it's a very critical time for us here, not only in Atlanta, but throughout the entire country. Today's topic, I want to just give you the topic today because I'm really excited about it, and I love all people, and especially the people that I have on today. Today is ¿Qué pasa? What's going on in our Latin community? We need to have this conversation because oftentimes we talk about the narrative from the African American perspective, but our Latino brothers and sisters are our brothers and sisters. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity to share the space today to just talk about things as they see it through their eyes, because we don't necessarily get the proper media coverage. We don't always have the proper understanding and insight. So I just wanted to invite a couple of guests today to just kind of share what's going on as they see it within their community. Thanks for all of the new listeners today. I thank you guys for joining us. Just want to give you guys a little background as to what Real Chicks Rock is all about. It's all about creatively collaborating and connecting to raise awareness regarding issues that impact women. And we do it by way of community service. We do it through public speaking. We do it through mentoring, the workshops, and the arts. And this platform, like I said, we use this to talk about things that we feel are very important to us, and not only talk about the challenges and the opportunities, but we want to talk about how we can be empowered. So we try to walk away with some resolutions and some answers as well. Again, today my topic is ¿Qué pasa? What's going on in our Latin community? And I have a guest via Zoom, and I have one in the office today. Look at that pretty face. Hello. Let me say hi to my guest. My guest is Genevieve Williams Comrie, right? Close.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being a guest. And inside to my right here is Dr. Juan Rodriguez. Juan.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am so excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Thanks. Let's jump in. So Genevieve, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little background about yourself, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Michelle. Well, first of all, I checked out the Real Chicks Rock platform, right? So I read up because I'm really careful about who I do interviews with.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to be here. I should say that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm really excited. I live in the Bronx right now. I'm originally from Panama, Republic of Panama, not Panama City. And I'm a mom of two amazing children, 7 and 9-year-olds. And I'm also a daughter, right? I'm a daughter of my mother, which is Ona Williams Comrie, and my father, Enrique Williams. And that's just really important for me to say because they live in Panama.
Right.
So especially during these times, it has been, it's been hard. It's been hard for me to be so far away from them and not be able to visit them.
Right. When's the last time did you see your parents? Was it last year, 2019, or was? It
was 2019, for sure. I usually either bring them here to the U.S. To spend a month, or we all of us go to Panama. So neither one of them has happened this year.
Yeah.
And it's not only me impacted, right? It's also my children.
Yes.
That have a really strong connection to their grandparents and to Panama and their cousins and everything else.
Right.
So it also feels like there's been sort of a rupture of relationship building and family life.
Yeah, and it's important. It's very critical because we need that. Has the challenge been because of and we can talk more about it as we get into the program and the conversation, but has a challenge that we can't see our parents because of COVID in conjunction to our relations with Panama, or it's just really been because of COVID?
No, Panama is one of the countries, like most of the countries, I should say, that have taken this pandemic really seriously.
Yes.
They actually closed down their airports.
Wow.
So and that's a way that they have been able to contain it.
Yes.
And to reduce the numbers. So it's still not safe for people to go in or out.
Right.
I feel like people are going out more, and now they have opened it up for cargo only.
Okay.
Right. But like for example, when I told my parents once, like, oh yeah, I'm going to the supermarket. This was maybe like May or June, and my dad is like, oh, you have to prepare, and he was asking, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, yes, every single supermarket here in Panama City has the temperature checker.
Right.
And then not only that, they give out free masks.
Wow.
If people don't have it.
Yes.
If buildings are over a certain height and floors, they have contact tracers coming in and coming out. And he's like, so what are they doing over there? I said, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
They have a sign that says you have to come in, but I still see people inside places without the mask on.
Right.
So public health is actually something that has been taken very seriously. So it's for their safety that I can't go.
Yeah, because you're going to be in trouble if you go over there, because we just don't have those type of restrictions. So when you get over there, you're going to have to be quarantined and all that and da-da-da-da-da.
Well, they don't even allow you to come in.
Yeah. Wow.
We had an aunt that passed away recently, and her daughter was the only person that was allowed because her daughter.
Yeah, immediate family.
And she had to be quarantined before anything else.
Wow.
Public health has been taken very seriously in a country that doesn't have the millions of dollars at this moment.
I know. We're going to talk more about that. Now to my guest to the right, Juan. Dr. Juan, hi.
Hi.
Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
I'm a New Yorican. I was born and raised in New York, in El Barrio. I taught in the South Bronx, Junior High School 131, for a little while. I changed careers in 1993 to become a chiropractor.
Okay.
In New York, I worked in construction for over 12 years doing layout design, project management, and estimating of high-rise construction buildings.
Yes.
And then the bottom fell out, and I said, I had enough.
Okay.
I'm going to come to Georgia.
Okay.
And that's where my opportunity to meet you. I had told my friends, you know what? I'm going to become a chiropractor. And they were like, dude, bro, what do you know about? I go, like, nothing. And they told me, hey, listen, I admire you, And the reason why I admire you is because a lot of people say, I'm gonna, and they never.
Right.
All right? You just said, hey, I'm gonna, and you just got up, came to Georgia, and I got to meet Michelle.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on a chair that probably Kai and Kevin and all my colleagues here in Atlanta.
Some of your house heads have said,
I'm not worthy. I like to tell people, I wore a bow tie today because I wanted to make sure that I look quasi-intelligent.
You're fine.
Because I'm constantly telling people I'm not that smart.
You're fine. You're fine. Tell me a little bit about the neighborhood you live in today. Is it Latino inspired or influenced? No?
Oh, no, not at all. Coming from a Barrio, Spanish Harlem, everything I knew was Black and Puerto Rican.
Right.
So when I came to Georgia, I anticipated, to be inclusive, to be accepted by my colleagues. So I started working, and I was kind of thrown for a loop because everything growing up was, Black and Puerto Rican. I didn't even know I was a minority, I thought everybody was Puerto Rican, right? And I came to Georgia, and we got questions like, dude, do you speak Mexican? I'm like, no, I think they speak Spanish, and so do I. Oh, you have good recipes for tacos. I go, no, dude, you eat more tacos than I do. I eat rice and beans, man. Okay? So those are the kind of questions that we got. I got pulled over for driving while being brown, because I had an older car, and when they looked at my license, it was like, Juan Rodriguez, you must be illegal. So they took my license. I got it back. It was because the light over my tag was out.
Okay.
So now, years later, when we had our child, we decided that we wanted to move to East Cobb, which is very predominantly
white. Yeah, Caucasian, white.
Melanin deprived.
Okay.
Not melanin enhanced. Okay. And I felt like a stranger on a strange planet.
Okay.
I would take my son to school and they would ask him, "Oh my God, where are you guys from?" And we're Puerto Rican. And he was like, "Oh, we thought you were Middle Eastern or something." And then I would find it very interesting that my friends that I met here and from Atlanta proper found it challenging to come visit me in Cobb County because it was like, dude, why? I'm not going to go to Cobb County, man. I'm African American. I'm going to get pulled over for nothing. So those are the kind of challenges that we faced, and we kind of look at them and go like, we are who we are, and we're going to live this way, okay? We're not going to change ourselves for just about anybody. And it gets me into trouble. It gets me into trouble.
But it's okay.
Because I have a strong perception of no matter how educated or no matter how much your income status may be in the proper environment, you're not going to be looked upon as someone as equal because of your melanin content.
Okay.
So which is kind of like challenging until they start talking to you and they go like, "Hey man, that guy's kind of cool. Hey, that guy's kind of smart. Or that gal is kind of smart."
Yeah.
You can tell because all the books behind her.
Yeah, she is smart. Jay, we're talking about you. So I'm going to ask you, because I'm from the Bronx, so I know what it's like, but I haven't lived there in years. So tell me what the community's like now. Still a very big melting pot, correct? Blacks, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, the whole thing, right?
The whole thing. The Bronx, it's a historically marginated, I don't know if that's a word, but it has been marginalized, right? Politically and financially, economically. And, communities in the Bronx, primarily, there is one community in the Bronx, that is pretty white dominant, right?
Right.
And I feel like whenever I've been there, you can see the stark differences, right? But the Bronx, for the most part, the Bronx, parts of Brooklyn and Queens are the ones that uphold Manhattan, right? So, of course, we are living in it has the poorest congressional district in the whole country, but also most of the environmental violations within the city happen within the Bronx. All of the depots, for example, every single of the largest companies, are in the Bronx, which means that the traffic of, if you just look at like their delivery system and the traffic that happens within the Bronx, that then leads to pollution, that then leads to different types of cancers,
right,
that then lead to asthma issues and other health issues, are escalated in these communities. And then where are the lowest income generators for their families? In the Bronx, because they're the ones that sustain the rest of the state, of the city. So we're living in those conditions where there is a large undocumented community, where there is a lot of African descendants from different countries,
right,
where it's just like, for me it's not a melting pot direct necessarily. It's more of a community that has been systemically abandoned, and the people that live in it are the ones that keep on centering it and dealing with the marginalization of their own community.
Has there been an increased population for Mexicans to live in the Bronx, or not really? I see them when I'm home, more or less riding the trains, but I don't know where their dwelling borough might be. Any idea?
I've been here 10 years, right? So I couldn't speak specifically on the numbers of the Mexican community that live here, or the increase and decrease. I do know that there's some well-established businesses that are community-based, like for example, Restaurante La Morada, that's a safe haven for undocumented people, and it has been under attack recently. But I couldn't tell you the numbers, and more so because the work that I do is mostly focused on Black Latinos and Latinas, right? So a lot of the Mexican community, of course, they don't identify as Black. They're
right,
mostly indigenous descent. So not that I don't have any relationships with them, it's just that in the work that I do, we center Blackness within Latinidad.
And tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Okay, so I'm the current executive director of Afro Resistance. Afro Resistance is a human rights-based organization that works to educate and organize around racial justice in the Americas. And how we define the Americas, you know, people think that America is a country, and America is not a country. The country is called United States. The region is called America. And there are other countries that have, you know, that use America as well, right? Within their whole name. So we center Blackness within that, in the discourse around immigration and migration, right? So when we look at migration, we have to be clear that there is a very large percentage of Black folks that are immigrants, and our deportation rates, if you look at them specifically, are higher for Haitians than collectively for other people. And those are not things that are being openly discussed, because when we look at Haiti and Black Dominicans and Black Panamanians, we're not seeing them as immigrants. We're seeing them as simply Black people, which we are, but we're also immigrants. And the immigrant rights movement has historically neglected to incorporate us into the discourse, which is why more people focus on, and you know, people should focus on the Mexican community and the very Central American community, but we're also part of those countries, right? So for example, when the migrant caravans that happened recently that we all saw in the media, et cetera, there was a very explicit, not silencing, but ignoring of the hundreds of Garifuna women and families from Honduras that were migrating in those caravans as well. The same as the Black Cubans that were part of that caravan, the Black Brazilians that were part of that caravan. We didn't see their faces because, and if we don't see their faces, we don't humanize us.
Yeah. Awesome. Juan, for you touched on a little bit about some of the challenges you find or discovered in your community. Is there any other challenges or disparities that you've seen, whether it be in New York or really here in Georgia?
You know, growing up in New York and in a Barrio, I'm an uptown guy and my wife is a downtown girl. In the I grew up in, I was a child in the 60s and I was a teenager in the 70s. So my influences there was like, growing up in a Barrio, there was a lot of like crime and there was like a lot of, but I realized that everybody around me was Puerto Ricans, and the Puerto Ricans used to congregate together. They came to this one area so that they can uplift it. Now, when I would go outside, of course I would be dodging, like junkies, and I would see abandoned cars all over the place and the number runners and, the gangs on the corners and stuff like that. But to me, it was normal. It's like, hey, it's my block.
Right.
Where I'm going to is that in that area, in a barrio, which is, between 96th Street and like 138th Street, between the East River Drive and Central Park West, okay? It was like a big area where you found a lot of Hispanic culture that overlapped with the African Americans culture. And if you saw any white people in that neighborhood, they were either buying drugs or they were police officers. Okay. So everybody was Puerto Rican, Black and Puerto Rican. I was like, yo, man, what's up? Now, lately, I have been going, the last couple of times I went back to my neighborhood, I actually went by the basketball courts and I was like, hey, dude, they're playing basketball over there. And when I looked, it was like a whole bunch of Mexicans. I was like, or Central Americans. Being Mexican and generalizing it is really kind of like not politically correct. Okay. Just like when they come to me and ask me if I'm Mexican here in Georgia, because everybody that's Latino in Georgia is Mexican. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm not Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican. Right? The doctora, they will probably say, oh, she's African American, yo, what's up, sis? And then she'll just start speaking, and it's like, damn, you got an accent. All right? But what happens, and it's happening here in Georgia also, where you go to like Smyrna or you go to Gwinnett, people that are coming from another country are going to want to be congregating in an area where they're going to be understood and they feel like it's a safe haven to them. So people will establish themselves in these locations and then start incorporating or start bringing in their own kind. And then in which case they start doing cliques so that they can protect themselves. Which can overlap into like the gang culture and, protection and then it could be also attract the eyes of other people where they can think it's like, oh, we can have victims over there and stuff like that. In which case, because they're undocumented, they don't have access to the banks, and so they'll carry a significant amount of money on themselves, and they don't have any driver's license, so they're worried about getting pulled over and like my case as being a doctor, when their patients come in and they're undocumented, first of all, they got hit. They weren't at fault in a car accident. They were arrested, and then they were hurt, and now they feel that they're not entitled to any claims or any kind of rehab services. In which case, I provide them because I don't care. I like taking care of people. So going back to that topic. You see in Smyrna, you see in Marietta, little pockets. You see big pockets in Gwinnett. And in Gwinnett, we also have a Puerto Rican representative. His name is Don Pedro Marin. And he's in the House of Representatives, a Democrat, and he works. And in Cobb County, we got a Latina. She's young. She's going up against an 80-year-old incumbent. And she's 35, and she's going for the school board. I'm kind of like excited about that, So he comes a Latina, and she's a Democrat, and she's going to run up against a Republican. And it's kind of like exciting to see that because, again, you got people that say they're gonna, and they don't. This is the sisters that stepping up and say, I'm gonna do it. Just like AOC in the Bronx. Yeah. She stepped up and she'd be like, yo.
She's doing incredible things.
I'm here.
She's doing incredible things. Talk to me a little bit about the unemployment rate within the Latin community. The numbers have gone up, been the same. And tell me a little bit about it, your perception or opinion on that, Juan. What's going on?
In our economy, they keep saying, oh my God, there are jobs all over the place. This is the best unemployment situation that's ever been. It's just like, yeah, well, you're underemployed, okay? It's very difficult to be making $10 an hour and have an apartment in the Bronx, or God forbid to have an apartment in Manhattan, or in Barrio, which is being completely gentrified because they're driving the people that were living there for hundreds of years that were in rent-controlled apartments. They're getting driven out so that they can accommodate those spaces because they realize what we knew all the time. It was just like, look, this is a cool place to live, man. We're in downtown in 15 minutes. We're in Jersey in 20. Yeah. We can be in Queens in any time, So it's those are the kind of things that disturb me is that, okay, these people want to work and they're being forced out, and you got, make America great and let's work and, but nobody wants to pick cabbage or lettuce or, potatoes. And it's happening in Puerto Rico. It's happening in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, you got intelligent people, super educated people, and they don't stay in Puerto Rico and they don't want to work the land. They don't want to work what is given to them. They don't want to invest in their land. So you got people that are coming from other countries like Santo Domingo, the Dominicans, and you got people coming from Venezuela, which is easily egress. It's like, hey, we can go to Puerto Rico because they speak Spanish over there and everything is cool, and we're going to be incorporated. And it's like they start living, and it was like, hey, man, I think I'd like to buy that store. I think I can run the store. And they'll invest their time, their energy, and their money into elevating something that was overlooked by the people that were already living there. So it starts getting skewed in the other direction. That's why, we find a lot of other countries that are outside of the United States that go into, let's say, the Bronx, and they buy a bodega. And, there's like a Korean, you go into a bodega and you expect everything to be in Spanish, and the guy behind the as of Asian descent. Or if you go into a hotel and you see all these Indians running hotels, it's like, hey, how come they can do it and stuff like that? We can do that also. We just choose not to do it because we're so invested in this American dream of like, oh, we need to have a high-powering executive job and push a white paper here and have people listen to us because we're so full of ourselves. And I don't believe in that. I tell people all the time, I say, hey, no, I'm not that smart.
Okay.
I just read a couple of books, like she did. I pointed at you, yeah.
Tell me what's going on in the Bronx from an unemployment perspective. Are the numbers staggering there, or how has it been for our Latino brothers and sisters? Hi, cutie, in New York or in the Bronx.
My daughter wants to know why you don't have your mask on.
Oh, because I'm talking. I am, yeah.
Is she looking for a job?
We're 6 feet. We're 6 feet apart. Yeah, we can't reach. You want me to put it on? Okay. On the next break, I'll put it on. She's giving me the face like, you need to put it on. Should I scooch out? I'm going to move over. Is that better? We're 6 feet. We're social distancing. But thank you for that. Tell her thank you for holding us accountable. Thank you.
And they're off. So I'm gonna throw a little wrench in here, right?
Really?
Do it.
Just a little one. Just because not all Latina people are created equal.
Right.
So this misconception, well, no, it's not a misconception. There's a high level of unemployment within the Latino community. Yes, absolutely. There's also a high level of white Latina employability, right? And we have a large percentage. Like if we look at places like Florida, Miami, right?
Yes,
we have tons of white Cubans,
yes,
tons of white Venezuelans, tons of white Colombians that are highly employed.
Yes,
right. If we look at a lot of that list of Fortune 500 businesses and everything else, we have a very high percentage of white Latino folks that are employed at these companies, but they suddenly don't count because they are white, right?
Okay.
So they're part of this white racial category, and their Latinidad is optional, to be honest. Until then, they want to use it for their benefit.
Okay.
And these people are also creating high levels of unemployment in all communities of color because they're making decisions based on their financial and capital gain. And we're talking in government as well, right? So there are exceptions, of course, of Latino folks. Stop it. Sorry.
That's
of Latino folks that are invested, right? And I know Pedro as well, right? And
you know Pedro?
I know Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez like that.
Yes.
I've met with her before. But these are exceptions of people that are invested in community.
Right.
Other folks, we might not even know that they're Latino, and then they're doing things against immigration. There are Latinos that are also caging people in on the border.
Yeah.
So yes, so I just wanted to remind people, and there's background noise because my daughter is suddenly playing right next to me.
That's okay.
She's said that she's gonna stop.
Okay.
We'll see.
Multitasking.
Yes. So I just wanted to share that. Not all Latino communities are created equal.
Right.
I know that we're going to get into talking a little bit about electoral politics and voting.
Yes.
Because this whole thing around the Latino vote, yes, it's important that everybody vote. I cannot vote in this country because I'm a resident. But it's important for everybody to exercise their right to vote and to be elected. I'm also to me, those two things go side by side.
Right.
Because everybody that votes needs to really understand they also have the right to run. So, and that takes a different level of commitment and learning curve. But we have somebody like AOC, right? That used to be a bartender, locally active in her own community, and now she's in government, right? So it can happen, and we have other examples and models of Black folks that have also done that. But when we talk about the Latino vote, I'm always like, okay, who's doing the marketing? Because Latinos vote, and
Yeah.
some of them vote for Trump.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
we're going to
do.
talk about that, baby. Yeah, we're going to talk
Right.
about that. Yeah.
White Latinos vote.
Yes, yes, yes.
And a lot of them organize, and because their alliances are not with the people on the ground.
It is not. There's a big movement in Dade County and Miami, right? There are Cubans for Trump. There's a whole lot of synergy there. And then the governor, right, of Puerto Rico, right, Wanda Vasquez, has endorsed Trump just this week, last week, 10-6. She publicly endorsed, and she's asking, to your point, getting people to vote. And I guess there's an underlying ask to vote for Trump because she's endorsing him. But she wants people to go out and vote. When you look at her, she does not look like me, you, or Juan. She does look more like of the white Latino, blonde hair, so and so, so.
Like a white person.
Yeah, like a white person. When I looked at her, I saw her face. I saw, she looks like a white person. So I thought that was. It was incredibly surprising because this is the same president that has often snickered and made comments about selling off Puerto Rico, wants to sell off Puerto Rico. When the hurricane hit and they were in devastation, he did nothing for them but throw paper towels at them in the press conference. He just signed a bill for like $13 billion to help to restore the electricity. But how long have they been in the dark? I mean, how long has it been? It's been over a year. So now that it's critical to election time, right? It's been some time now, maybe a year or two. And now that it's closer to election year, election time, oh, now I'll sign a bill to help you guys out. Now you're a part of the United States. So is this underlying sarcasm, just, disregard for Latinos? And yet I'm surprised her and the president of Goya are supporting Trump. I don't understand. Can you help me? Somebody help me. Why? Why so? Why are they doing this?
Because white supports white. White privilege is white privilege. And nobody's gonna mess with their dollars. That's where one of my identities is as an immigrant person, woman from Latin America, and yes, I'm Panamanian, and under this definition, I'm Latina, but I have nothing in common with them because I'm a black woman, right? And that type of analysis has to be accompanied when we talk about this Latino community. There is no community. There's just that we are from Latin America. There's no community.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm very clear about that because most of the Latino community does not even consider people like me.
Wow.
And we have to have that analysis because the same racist people from our countries of origin have migrated. Their racism didn't shed on the airplane.
Understood. Yeah.
So Goya comes from, it comes from that class of folk.
Wow.
That do crappy things in their home countries as well. So why would it be any different? And I think that's where a lot of people are disappointed and sad. And I'm like, I personally don't trust white privileged people like that. I never have.
Yeah.
And I never will. And I'm not talking about the average white person. I'm talking about the right person that is in power and making policies that literally are killing people.
Juan, what say you?
Wow. Well, there was three things I wasn't supposed to talk about. One was politics, the other one was sex, and the other one was religion. So Jesus, my brown Jesus, is going to walk me through this, okay? Because in the United States, we have approximately 300 million people, of which 18% of them happen to be Latino. Let's go to 20% because I like even numbers.
Right, round up. Okay.
So let's figure out 60 million of us, and everybody is going to look at things the same way. And should we be protecting our borders? Yes, this is our country, and we should be defending our borders. Okay, we shouldn't be allowing criminal activity crisscrossing both sides of the border. All right, and okay, cool. You should defend the border, but should you victimize every single Latino or everybody that looks like me that has the name like Juan Rodriguez. It's just like, oh my God, he's in the country illegally. He shouldn't even be here. Oh my God, those are the kind of things that irk me the most. So, should we look at the economic activity of a country like, say, China, who's going rampaging through Africa and, just doing brutal tactics in order to, steal their resources, sort of like, what some people from Europe did when they came to the United States, but let's not go into that, okay? They're doing that, and the sciences, are they hurting the economy of the United States? Yeah, it is, okay? My problem with the United States is that they're overlooking people like me, because when I was growing up, it was just like, hey, man, you should become a fireman. Hey, you should become a sanitation worker. Hey, man, you should become a policeman. Hey, those are great jobs and stuff like that. Nobody ever told me. It's like, dude, you can be a doctor. Dude, you can be a lawyer. Dude, you can be a judge. Dude, you can be a financial advisor. None of that stuff was told me. It's like, hey, look, just get a cool job, keep your head low, make a living, retire, and move to Florida, where you're going to be recognized as an illegal alien or someone that shouldn't be there. Because Florida is the southern state. So is Georgia. Very southern. And so we have to step up and show people, it's like, look, we're here and we're not different than you. And yeah, there's some of the things that the president may have an inkling of what he should be doing or like looking at. And it's like, I can look at it and go like, yeah, he might have a little bit of a point there. But in the manner that he's going about it, it's like really, in my opinion, it's horrible. There's no dignity, there's no class, there's no cachet, there's no, there's no estilo. The guy. Well, okay, you're gonna get me in trouble because now people gonna come over to me and they're gonna be like, you said all these things on the radio. Oh my God, I can't go see you. That doesn't neglect the fact of what kind of person I am, or what I do with my hands and my technician abilities, or whether or not that I can communicate the information that I have ascertained from your physical stature, that what could be your problem, and how can we progress in order to be able to help you live a better lifestyle, or neurally facilitate. Yeah, I can talk like a doctor sometimes, but it kind of like, ew. I'd rather talk like a human being, It's just like, hey, look, you're jacked up. Come see me.
Yeah.
I'll hook you up.
Okay.
I might even give you the broke ass friends and family discount. You might get one too, man, because you're down from the boogie down. From the boogie down, man.
I'm coming.
Let's go. West side.
I have to say, I used to live in Cobb County.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. How long were you here?
I was there, I think, from 2004 until 2010.
Okay, why did you move?
Because I met my partner,
Okay.
and he lived in the Bronx, and he had a house.
Wepa, gold digger.
Oh, hello.
I'm out of here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That was kind of like incorrect. I have my own. I just came.
No, it's a because I know,
Gotcha.
I knew, I used to have a house in Atlanta too. That's bigger than where I was living now. But, space is really, I come from Panama. So we had a lot of space. We had a big garden. We used to grow our food, et cetera, et cetera. So the thought about, when I met him and the opportunity came for me to move, and I thought, oh, hell no, it's not going to work. You're going to have to move to Georgia. Because I'm not living in a one bedroom, like, not because it's not a great place to live like that. Right. But I come from space. Not from wealth, but from space. And those are the conversations too. Like in our home countries, it's a different reality no matter our class and income level, right? So space and nature are really important to me. And then when he said, well, I have a house, I was like, oh, okay. And then we have a garden. So we grow mostly our own food.
That's awesome.
Are you still offended by snow?
Oh, I do not like that.
Well, hey, come back down. When you want to come down, we
You're
got
welcome
a space
to come back down anytime.
We got you.
anytime.
We got
We
you.
got you. I want to talk to you about immigration. So are you? I think I heard you correctly. Are you a citizen, or you still have your Panamanian citizenship? How are you?
I'm Panamanian. I'm not a U.S. citizen. And you know, there's this push also like that people have to give up their citizenship.
Right.
And that's not, you know, you're born where you're born. So just keep that in mind. You don't lose where you're born. That is your citizenship.
Yes.
So there, you know, and if you look at international human rights protocols and laws and you know and all that, people don't have to give up their citizenship. It's an optional piece.
Yes.
So when I hear that folks are like, I don't want to give up my citizenship, I'm always like, but you were born where you were born.
Right.
You don't have to give up your citizenship. That's your birthright to be a citizen.
So we're not threatened by these immigration laws and things that are in place by Trump, because he was
It's
on
concerning.
such a rampage to send you back to where you came from, and that could be any one of us. Most of us are not originally from here. We may be one generation away, like our parents came from the Caribbean, whether it be Jamaica, Puerto Rico, DR, Cuba, whatever, and then boom, we were born here. So there was this concern that our parents or maybe an uncle or, you know, could be sent back. And so that's still a concern, right, for us?
Absolutely. I used to travel as of March a lot for work.
Yes.
Inside and outside of the country. And that was always a concern of mine, because not even residents are safe.
Yeah.
And I would say not even citizens are safe
Right.
too, because, you know, so no, I think it's always a concern. I don't think it's going to go away. And I think for Black folks, it's even heightened, right? Because of the lack of our perceived physical humanity, right? And our constant threat of, you know, like we breathe the wrong way and we're a threat suddenly. So I feel like there's always that fear. I feel, I do not know what's going to happen with immigration. I'm all for, as long as transnational companies exist in our countries of origin and are creating chaos, the borders, you know, take over the borders.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're looking to
have the right to migrate. As long as businesses migrate with rights, humans should be free to migrate as well.
And we're looking to have dual citizenships. Those of us that are U.S. citizens, we're looking to find somewhere else to live, because it's like, I don't know how much more we want to take of this. So people are starting to talk about citizenship worldwide, not necessarily just being here in the States, whether it's returning back home to where our parents are from or creating another life somewhere else. But the social injustice is just so ridiculous. The racism is so heavy. I think we're over it. We are over it. And so people are trying to weigh different options, especially if you have 2 nickels to rub and you can save and you have some form of retirement. It's like, do I really want to spend my retirement years in a country that is leading us this way? That's the conversation that people are having.
And for me, I see that and I understand that, and like I said, I always center Blackness, right? We're people of the African diaspora, right? So wherever the African diaspora is, I feel like we're entitled also to be there. But I say this because where my parents live right now in Panama, and in a lot of places in Panama, the prices of things that were normally certain prices and accessible to local communities no longer exist. Yeah. Because there has been a mass migration of folks from the United States, and with that comes a lot of financial privilege that they bring. So if folks that are if folks that are migrating don't have a class perspective about where they're moving to, it's replicating the injustices that are happening right here that they're running away from. Wow. So expensive, but purchasing power for that is not accessible to people in your own community, and then you migrate somewhere else and create that for that local community. So, and the same thing with heightened security. A lot of folks from the United States are migrating, then suddenly not feeling safe, and then like navigating how to make controls and regulations on music and on this and streets and and it's like, okay, so now you're creating the same chaos that you're running away from.
Right.
So I think there has to be very clear understanding and a political clarity when people migrate about what we're not going to do.
Understood.
Especially in Black communities.
Understood. Juan, let me ask you, I want to talk to you more about the Barrio. Some people may not know. Our listenership spans all the way to Europe and Germany and Paraguay, so they may not know. So give me a brief definition of what the Barrio means to you.
Of the who?
The Barrio.
El barrio. Es como la palabra patria, or the word patria, or like, nationalism, okay? But barrio, man, was... Remember, I grew up in the 70s, and so I was a teenager in the 70s. So I was at the height of like disco and Motown, and just at the end of the 60s. And so my musical influences were being enlightened, and there was like a record label that wanted to mimic Motown, and they called themselves Fania. And so they got like everybody that was like anybody that can play a record, and you'd go down the street. It's something that I miss about New York, man, is I really love it, is that when you used to go down New York, man, you walk down the street and it's like, oh, look, Eddie Palmieri is playing. Oh my God, look, Charlie Palmieri. That's what it was. Or Tito Puente, who came from a barrio.
Yeah.
Or like Mark Anthony, who came from a barrio, who used to do like freestyle music before he became a salsa singer. Same thing with India. I saw you at the Palladium doing The Lover Who Loves You, Rocks You All Night. And we were like, oh, whatever. Anyway, that's besides the point. A barrio to me was a situation where everything I went outside, everything was like family. I couldn't do anything down the block because I knew by the time I got home, it was going to get to my mother. And my mother was no joke, She was serious with the chancleta. So that influenced my education or my perspective on the world. It's like, man, everything should be like this, and I constantly will post on Facebook or any one of my pages. It's like, I think everybody, I'm racist. I think everybody should be Puerto Rican, because it's like we come in three colors, So that's what the barrio was. Yeah, but was it dangerous? Yes. Were the landlords burning down the buildings? Yes. Were there junkies? Did I have to like step over a drug addict that was sitting on the stoop? Yes. And were there like abandoned cars down the road? Yes. And then in the 80s, it was the crack wars. And it was like, oh my God. The government, the country was like, oh, we got to do something about crime. We got to do something about crime. Everybody, oh my God, there's so much crime. It's rampant. Everybody's shooting and stuff like that. I got an idea. We're going to get tough on crime and let's build more jails. But the people that are getting incarcerated were people that were like down, or Cuco from the fourth floor, or Papo from down the block, and those are the kind of things that we didn't even think was going to happen. So the decisions that we make right now, they're not going to affect us right now. They're going to have long-lasting repercussions to what's going to happen to us down the road. We have a friend that wanted to go to Panama, and I have a friend that's a very good friend that's Panamanian, and we were talking about going to Panama. You know what, man, let's open up a clinic in South America. Oh yeah, where we going to go? Panama. He goes, oh no, Panama is too expensive because we use the American dollar. The American dollar because of the Panama Canal and because it belonged to the United States, because we claimed it and we built it, so it's ours, It made a serious impact on the diaspora that's in the country of Panama. And like, man, the people were like, hey, man, I'm working, I got a job. And so people want to retire in Panama. It was a very interesting topic. I kind of like it. Right? And my friend was like, no, man, we ain't going to Panama. It's too expensive. Let's go to Colombia, someplace where there's not a lot of
Yeah.
Americans, and they need to dispel the image of like drug runners. Let's talk about drug running and crime rates. A lot of the incarcerated people in the United States are there for like minor crimes. I watch like 48 Hours all the time. It's like, somebody got shot. Well, how did they get shot? Why did they get shot? And like 90% of the people that get shot on like those crime shows are like minorities, African Americans. And what were they shot over? Well, it was either a domestic dispute or a drug deal that went back. Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of drug deal was it? Well, it was like marijuana. It was like, well, really, is what marijuana really that bad? Is it like, am I thinking about, let me look at this. Is it worse than what you're drinking a bottle of like gin or Hennessy or whatever? No, it's not as bad. Now, if you remove that one label around marijuana, then you're going to have to let go of like thousands and thousands of criminals that were incarcerated for going to jail because they had like maybe an ounce of marijuana, 2 ounces of marijuana and stuff like that, which is like a petty crime. They're not criminals. They didn't go out and shoot somebody, they didn't kill somebody, but somebody killed them in regards for the potential of making a profit off of a illegal substance that they're doing so that they can upgrade their status within the neighborhood so that they can make a living, because the United States makes it completely impossible for just a normal Joe to go to a higher academic institution and be able to expand their educational basis. It's like, oh, I want to become a doctor. Oh, okay. Well, first of all, you got to go, take the SAT. You got to take the, all those stupid tests, and then it's going to cost you $200,000 to become a doctor. Oh, well, maybe I could just sell drugs and I can make $200,000 in a year. You understand? And that's the thinking. It's like people don't want to invest the energy and the time and the commitment that is required in order to elevate. But if you want to elevate this country, I say invest in your homegrown population. Make education available to low-income people, because there's some super intelligent people that are running a Fortune 500 business that's called a drugstore or an illicit drugstore on the corner that can easily transfer that kind of behavior into regular business. And I look at that and it's kind of like frustrating to me. But then we get into the other problem, Michelle. So no matter how much education or no matter how much economic status that you may be, you're still going to go into this, classy boardroom, and you're going to sit down and they're going to go, oh my God, look, it's Juan Rodriguez. But if it said John Rogers, it was like, oh, John Rogers is coming, not Juan Rodriguez. Yeah. I'm going to be looked at, I won't be classified immediately upon entering the room just because they looked at my name.
Right. I want to ask you this, Juan, because I know your family. Shouts out to Jerry and Brenda that are listening and watching, and your son. I've met your son, and I'm going to ask you the same question too. Why is it so important that you continue to teach your son your Latin ethics in your community? Why is that so important? And I see that all the time, between the music, the food that you eat, how you embrace family, your language, the way that you keep your origin, the way that you speak. Why is that so important? And why are you trying to teach that to your son? Tell me.
That's a fantastic question. Okay? And it's deep, because growing up in Barrio, I was born and raised in New York. And I'm the youngest. So by the time I came around, my parents spoke to me in Spanish and I responded in English. My father and mother went to the 3rd grade, and by the time they transitioned, they were both literate in both English and Spanish, and had higher education or higher level custodian jobs and stuff. Okay, and there's a saying. There's just like tell me. I'll tell you who you are if you tell me who you run with. Okay,
right.
If I go to Puerto Rico, I used to go to Puerto Rico because remember, salsa dancing was happening in the 70s, man, disco. We were like, I was hustling with my girly friend over there from downtown, okay? And We would go, man, I'm going to Puerto Rico. I'm going to go to Puerto Rico. Because I got to see the dances in Puerto Rico. I got to see what they dance like. And I go to Puerto Rico and I was like, yeah, they don't dance that good down here. We dance better than that in New York. Okay? And then I started doing some research on the topic. And it was just like the Fania All-Stars or Fania Records was developed in New York. And that style of dancing, which is the transition from salsa dancing into the hustle, was developed in New York. It was, I don't care what anybody says, man. It was done in the 70s while I was a teenager, okay? So that was what was influencing to me. But I would go to Puerto Rico, and my cousins would go, aquí viene el gringo. Here comes the gringo. Here comes the gringo. So they would refer to me as a gringo, and I would be offended. I'm not a gringo. I'm a Puerto Rican like you. Yeah, but your Spanish sucks. My Spanish just sucks. Now, I never spoke Spanish until I came to Georgia. In Georgia, I could read, I could understand, I could sing some of those lyrics, and you could talk to me in Spanish. I understood it, but I never had to speak it. I never went to school to learn it. So my reading and writing is horrible. Probably read like a third grader or a fifth grader, but my communication skills have improved because I had to translate the information that I have in here to people, to say, look, you got a boo-boo. How am I going to say that? Well, let's try it in Spanish. And then so I can run. And every once in a while, I would run into the dialect issues. The dialect issues, which would bring you up to that word Latinx.
Okay.
Latinx. Okay, well, language is a fluid thing, We came a long way from, to like, yo, what's happening? So the transition from, and then every year you're getting words that are being added to the language. But you cannot change whole languages like that come from the Roman nature in regards to like Portuguese and Spanish and French and Italian and all of those, and even English has like the male and female type type words, so you don't go like, midshipmen, there's more midship person, okay, or seamen, or sea person, okay, it's in the language, but our language is being changed, so it's going to be a hard transition for someone who spoke a language for so many years, and then now we got to slowly shift these words so that it can be incorporated into our daily lexicon. It's like what comes out of my mouth, la, So that, man, how did I get off topic, man? We were talking about like
a little bit.
Barrio.
Yeah, but I was asking, why is it so important to influence your son with the culture? Why? Why do you want to pass that on?
He needs to know who he is, man, because there's no way you're going to be in the future or see who you are unless you know where you come from. There's no way, man. There's no way you can't tell somebody. It's just like, hey, this is my heritage and this is where I come from, and how I go to like capoeira events and my son is at the capoeira events, and I'll be looking at him, hey, man, we do dances like that in Puerto Rico, and I'm sure they do them in Panama, with the dances and the dresses and the way they call, the call and response, which go all the way back to Africa, So, yeah, it's very important that they understand that, how to eat rice and beans, whether it's on the top or on the side, what a tostón is and what pernil is and stuff like that, and how to interact with each other socially. Actually, the pandemic has been horrible on the Latino community in regards to how we interact with each other.
Why?
I'm going to tell you, because normally if I would see you, Michelle, I'd be like, yo, Michelle,
I know.
What's up?
I know.
And give each other a kiss, or be like, it's a loving culture, in which case that we embrace the people that we see and we bring them inclusion into our lifestyle, And it's been like really hesitant. It's like, oh, I can't hug them because I might like sneeze, COVID. That's not acceptable. Well, to me, I'm definitely, am I militant about it? Yeah, my son needs to know he's Puerto Rican.
Okay.
He might have been born in Georgia. He might be a redneck Rican, and he eats grits periodically. but he is Puerto Rican, and he will know what he knows what rice and beans is. And I take him into a barrio, and I go like, look, this is your culture. And when we hear percussion, he gets motivated, spiritually, because that's where the ancestors come from, from percussion, at least in my mindset,
Okay. Genevieve, what for you? Why is being part of the Latin community so important? Why are we trying to pass on that information, that culture, to our children? Why is that important?
Thank you. So I'm going to come back to when I said there's no Latino community, right? So I'm not fighting to be part of the Latino community, because the Latino community, for the most part, is not embracing of African descendant people, of Black people. Having said that, I am, and I understand that my home country hasn't done a lot to also embrace Black people, politically, systemically, structurally. It's the same issues that we face wherever we go in the world. But it is important for my children to know what has been fought for them, right? And part of me being Panamanian comes with language, comes with cultural tradition, religious tradition, with food, with everything else that has been inherited, and people that look like me fought for us to be able to have access to that. So that's why it's really important for my children to have access, not only to have access to that, but also be invested to stand proudly in that, right? Because the fact that we are like recording this virtually, and Juan and you yourself are in the studio, is the fact that we come from a legacy of people that fought for us to have these spaces, right? So that's what's important for me, for them to know, like, this is also yours, and this is part of your rights, that you inherit through us, right? Through us. That's really important. And then, Juan, I'm going to push you a little bit for the growth to be there too, in regards to things change, and language. We didn't create the language that we speak.
I agree. I agree.
We didn't create the language that we speak. The language that we speak was created for us and imposed, because if there wasn't a slave trade, we would not be speaking Spanish or English, right? We would be maybe speaking another language and learned maybe another language.
Absolutely.
So with that comes language shifts, right?
Absolutely.
And for me, it's an effort, right, to say Latino, Latina, Latine, Latinx, right? It's an effort, but I do it simply because I'm a woman and I'm not Latino. So the standardizing of this male dominant culture has also led to domestic violence, to violence against women, because when we invisibilize women don't become a central piece of culture, and we are. And language is a reflection of culture. So when we talk about machismo within the Latino community, well, of course, if women are not even present in language, and I see it so common when we have school counselors speak about el comité de padres de familia, and then I go to one of these comités. Those are the PTAs, the parent teachers associations, and it's all women. I'm like, why are we being called padres de familia if we're not padres? Why not? And then we have grandparents. Sometimes we even have grandparents that are at these PTA meetings. These are not parents either, so why not just call them family associations, family teacher? Let's start shifting language, because shifting language for your son and for my children is gonna open up freedoms as well. So that's like the invitation, and it happens in English too when we say you guys, and it's a whole bunch of women.
My studio audience here, which is Juan's wife, said that's the best explanation ever.
Call me anytime.
Yes, we're going to get to you.
See, now you got juice with my wife, and I'm scared of her,
You sure do.
Why'd you do that?
So what projects are you working on? What's next for you? I mean, pandemic and all. I mean, what are you going to be working on or working on now?
Actually, we have some really exciting things. If you go to afroresistance.org and Afro Resistance on Facebook, we just finished our very first, and it's one of the only Black girls panel. And it was a Black girls panel. We had girls 10, 11, and 16-year-olds from the region. So we had Brazil, we had Colombia, and the United States, talking about what are some of their issues and concerns for the future.
Wow.
And when you can get Black girls to articulate what they need in their own perspective, that will guide us as adults to move forward. Right. So that's one thing. We also, Afro Resistance also launched a children's anthology of children's stories written for children by children from the region. You can get that on our website as well. It's free of charge. And then because, what I said at the beginning, we have been invisibilized, right, as Black immigrants, as Black migrants, we launched the Black Women and Girls from Latin America Fund, which is actually giving small funds directly to Black women from Latin America and the Caribbean that are here and sustaining their families abroad.
Wow.
Because when we talk about who this has disproportionately impacted, it has disproportionately impacted Black people, and that includes the whole diaspora in the United States, and Latino non-Black identifying people. But the clarity here is that there's a lot of support from the immigrant rights movement to a lot of the non-Black community. But when you talk about Blackness, who is really supporting the domestic worker or the nanny that is undocumented and Black and just had a baby, and she has a child in her home country? There's not a lot of resources there.
Right.
So, and then the same for girls. We have girls that have not been able to go to school, where school was maybe one of the only safe spaces for them. But they have access to the internet and to services, but they're not allowed to access them via their cell phone and all those things because of their parents' restrictions. So the fund is something that once the girls apply for it, they also enter into a cohort of other girls that they can communicate with and create changes in their local community with some funding.
Nice.
So that's what's next for us, is really focusing on the work of Black girls from Latin America and the Caribbean.
A lot of work. So how can people find you? How can people find you and locate you?
You can find me on social media. The organization is Afro Resistance. That's the tag for all the social media. And then me personally is JW Panama on Twitter and on Instagram. And via Facebook is Janvieve Williams Comrie. And then you can also email me, Janvieve, JANVIEVE, at afroresistance.org.
Awesome. Juan, what's going on with you? What do you have
Dude,
next?
I can't follow that
Yes,
up.
you can.
Man,
What are you doing?
You know what? We need body. We need hands on our bodies.
That's right.
In a safe, consensual way.
Come on, doctor.
I'm just your local neighborhood neurofacilitator. I make sure that your body is working at homeostasis because it was disrupted due to injury, assault, or trauma.
Nice.
And you can locate me at AMQ Chiropractic. What does AMQ stand for? Aquí me quedo. And that's a throwback to my wife's father, who owned a restaurant in Brooklyn, and it was called Aquí me quedo. But it's an idiom that's used by a lot of Latinos, but in Puerto Rico, you use it as like, hey man, when they're really comfortable someplace, and like, hey man, let's go somewhere. I was like, no, aquí me quedo. I'm okay here. Okay. So I've worked for various different organizations in Atlanta. And finally, I got fatigued with the fact that it's just like, why am I working for all these people when I could do this for myself? Okay, and I don't have to worry about the gossip or the whatever's going on amongst ourselves, and I can do this, and then I can invest my time and my energy so that I can be closer to my family, and then maybe I can go out and shoot pictures and do photography. So you can find me at DRJC Rodriguez, that's RODRIGUEZ, at at Instagram, and you can find me on Flickr. You can see all my pictures on Flickr because that's my hobby. I like to shoot people.
Like to take
okay?
pictures.
Sometimes I cut their heads off. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitter, and you can find me on Facebook. Now, I'm here in Atlanta, and my energy is invested into making sure that I can communicate the information to people in a layman's term. Remember, I changed careers at 35, man. The people that went to the school around me were like in their 20s. And then like these people, like they have like this mentality. It's like, oh, I'm a doctor and I gotta act like a doctor. And like, doctors put on their pants the same way, one leg at a time. And they walk out the building one leg at a time. But they need to be able to communicate the information in a manner where it's understood, and they're gonna be able to retain it and regurgitate it down the line. Also, there's not a lot of places where you can go where you can find a Latino who's going to represent you in a court of law for injuries that you may have sustained in some sort of like work-related accident or automobile accident. And I'm that guy. And so every once in a while, it surprises me tons of times when I go to like these conventions and stuff like that, and I look all around me. I was like, dude, there's so many smart people in here. What am I doing in here? And then I go like, well, I guess I must be a little bit smart too in order to be able to be hanging out with them. No, man.
You're smart.
She's smart. Look, she got all those books.
You're smart too. You're smart. I want to thank you both for being my guests for today. This was very good. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. I want to thank our listeners out on Get Live Radio that is spanning the UK, Germany, and Paraguay. Also want to thank WDJA, DJY 99.1 FM for covering the Metro Atlanta area. That includes Dallas, Hiram, Powder Springs, and Douglasville. The On Channel and Beat Break Radio FM. If you want to get in touch with me, you can call us at 404-458-7930. Leave us your comments and questions that you might have had about this show. I'm Real Chicks Rock. I am everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I want to also shout out our sponsor for today. Today's show was powered by Clarity LLC, Discovering the Real You. So this is a young lady that is a millennial, is Black owned and operated, who is designed to coach you and your partner in unlocking your hidden potential. So many times, oftentimes we need some coaching in some areas of our life. Feel free to check out Clarity, that's spelled with a K. Clarity LLC on Instagram, and get your free consultation today. Schedule that today. So guys, that's my time. I am Real Chicks Rock, and like I said, you can find me everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go check out our website, realchicksrock.com. Make sure you get that t-shirt and get that mask. That baby girl told me I needed a mask. I do have masks. I have it here. I have it here in my bag over there. I'll be sure to put it on before I leave. We are social distancing today, so it was really good. It was great to see you guys. It's been a while. Thanks for my guests. Thank you so much for zooming in all the way from New York to be a part of the conversation today. Until next time, you guys continue to be well, take care, and rock on. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Adios.
you.
Wepa.